Hello, welcome to another tutorial. If this is your first time here, you're welcome. In today's tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how to cut and sew this trendy Bubu Kaftan dress. I'm going to be showing you an easy method to go about the cutting and sewing of this particular neckline. So if this is what you're interested in, you want to continue watching this video. These are the material I'm going to be using for this Bubu style. So I have 2 yards of Duchess material here, and I also have ashoke, and this ashoke is just a single piece. So you can get this at the market. Just tell them to sell you one single piece. So if your gown length is less than 60 inches, that is, it's not up to 60 inches, then you are going to be needing 3 yards of this Duchess material for this Bubu style. That's because the length of Duchess is about 60 to 62 inches, and so you are going to be able to use the length of this Duchess for your gown length. But if your gown length is more than 60 inches, that it is longer than 60 inches, then you will not be able to use the Duchess length because that will not be enough for you. So that means you are going to be using the yard length. This length this way is the yard length, so that means you are going to be using the yard length. And that is why you are going to be needing 4 yards if your gown length is more than 60 inches. So for me, my gown length is not up to 60 inches. My gown length is 54. And here I have 2 yards because my hip is 37 inches, so I can still manage it. So what you are going to do is your material, just go ahead and fold it into 4. So I'm going to be folding mine into 4. My 2 yards, and I'm going to be folding it into 4. So your 3 yards, also fold it into 4. And if you are using 4 yards, fold it into 4 accordingly. So you can see the way I already have my own folded into 4. But I have to pin this all together because this material is drawing somehow. So this is it. I already pin it in specific places so that it does not keep moving or shifting. And I have it folded into 4. The length of the Duchess material is going to be serving as my gown length. So the next thing you are going to do is to come down by 1 inch at this upper part. This is to mark the starting line. So I'm just going to take my ruler and draw a straight line across this point. So it's like my chalk is not showing very well, so I decided to use another white chalk. So after doing this, I'm going to be marking my shoulder measurement on this starting line. So your shoulder measurement, divide it into 2. So mine is 13.5 divided by 2. I have 6 3/4. So I've just marked it there. So from this point now, you are going to be marking your sleeve length. So you are going to measure from your shoulder to your elbow. So mine is 11 inches, but because I have 2 yards here, so I have 10.5, and I'm just going to manage it like that. So go ahead and mark your own exact elbow measurement. Then I'm going to come down there by 1 inch. Watch what I am doing. So I came down by 1 inch, and now I'm going to be connecting it towards the neckline. So that will just be the shoulder slope. After doing this, from this slope here, I'm going to be measuring my round sleeve measurement. So I'm using 15 inches for my round sleeve. So I'm going to go ahead and divide it into 2. So 15 divided by 2 is 7.5. So I'm going to mark 7.5. But I'm going to be adding 1 inch allowance to it. So this is to stitch it at the upper part and the lower part. So now I've gone ahead to mark 8.5. So at this point below your round sleeve measurement is where you are going to be taking your bust measurement. So now I'm going to be dividing my bust measurement by 4, and that will give me 8.5. Then I'm going to be adding 5 inches extra as the allowance. So I'm going to go ahead and mark this. Then I'm going to connect from the sleeve to this bust measurement like this. You can see the way I'm curving it. Just do exactly the same. Very easy. After this, I'm going to be measuring from the starting line. I'm going to be measuring my hip, shoulder to hip measurement. So mine is 25. I mark that. Then at the point here, I'm going to be measuring my hip measurement. So I'm going to divide my hip measurement into 4, and that gives me 9.25. So now I'm going to be adding 5 extra inches to this also. So I'm just going to mark it, and this is just the ease allowance. and it's also the stitching, it's also include the stitching allowance. So just add 5 inches extra to your bust measurement and also to your hip measurement. Then I'll connect it like this. And so what I have for my hip measurement is what I'm going to be measuring for my gown length at the hem of my gown. So I'm just going to go ahead now and mark my exact gown length. So from the starting line, I'm going to be marking 54 inches, which is my gown length, and then I'm going to be adding 2 inches extra. So first I'm going to mark 54 inches, then I'm going to add 2 inches extra for the hemming and stitching allowance. Then I'm going to be marking a straight line across this point. And then I'll go ahead and cut this out. So now I'm going to connect from my hip. Now I'm going to measure what I have there on my hip measurement, and then I'm going to be measuring exactly the same at the hem line. Now I'm going to connect it from my hip to the hem. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut this out, this side. Just watch what I'm cutting. So I cut from the sleeve area down to that part. Exactly, like just cut it exactly like this, very easy. Then I'm going to open up the sleeve area. The next thing, I'm going to cut the shoulder slope, and now we can take our neck measurement. So I'm going to be using 2 3/4 of an inch for my neck measurement. Remember that we have this clothes folded into 4, so we are cutting the front and the back together. Then I'm going to come down by 1 inch, and then I'm going to be connecting it like this. So if your client is big, you can decide to use 3 inches. It's still going to be okay, but I'm not big, so 2 3/4 is just fine for me. Then I'm just going to go ahead and cut it together. So this way I've cut the front and the back together. So now I'm going to be removing one of it. So I'm going to be removing that of the back, and this one that is left, I'm going to be using it to cut the front neckline. So now from this point, now I'm going to be cutting 1 3/4, 1 3/4. So I'm going to cut it all the way to 14 inches. I'm going to measure from my shoulder measurement. I'm going to come 2 inches below my underbust. So just come 2 inches below your underbust. My underbust is 12 inches, so 2 inches below it is 14 inches. So that is why I marked it up to 14 inches. So whatever your underbust is, come down by 2 inches and stop there. Then I'm going to connect this line to this point this way. The next thing is to mark the V part of the neckline. Remember that the neckline has something like a V shape. So I'm going to be coming down by 8 inches. So that is where my V shape is going to stop. So I'm going to mark 8 inches. So, but if your client is big, you can decide to use 9 inches, make it come down a little bit so that the head can conveniently enter through the neckline. So I'm going to connect from the start of the neckline to this 8 inches mark in a V manner. You can see the way I curve my ruler. So go ahead and cut yours exactly this way. Just bend it in a V manner like this and connect it to this 8 inches point. So it's looking like my chalk is not showing very well, so I'm just trying to use various chalk to connect this line. So now I'm going to go ahead and cut this new line together with just like this. So now before opening this up, one important thing to do is to notch this angle by 1/2 of an inch. Is a very important process in the sewing of this neckline, because by the time you are fixing the collar, that is that 1/2 inch that you are going to be using to stitch the collar together. So it's very important. So I'm going to be measuring one side of this neckline here, and I have 14 inches. But by the time I stitch these shoulder parts by 1/2 of an inch, I'll be left with 13.5. Then I'm going to bring the back part also. I'm going to fold it into 2 like this also, and then I'm going to be measuring it also, and I have 3.5. And by the time I stitch the shoulder also, I'll be left with 3 inches, right? So now I'm going to add 3 inches to the 13.5 that I measured for the front. So that will be 16.5, and this is what I'm going to be using to cut the collar, which is the neckline. So now I'm going to be, that 16.5 now is for one side. So I'll have to multiply it by 2, or make it 16.5 plus 16.5 for both sides. So now I'm going to be using the ashoke for the collar, and I'll be folding it into two like this. So this measurement here, after folding it into two, I have 3 inches here. So now I'm going to be measuring that 16.5 that I measured for one side, 16.5. Then for the second side, another 16.5, making 33 inches. So I'm going to be marking 33 inches length on this ashoke. Then I'm going to be adding seam allowance or stitching allowance. I'm going to be adding extra allowance of 3 inches. I'm going to advise that you should add 4 inches because the Duchess fabric is kind of stretchy or something. But if you have excess, it's better to have excess. So when you have excess, you can cut it off than you not having excess and it will not be enough. So now I'm just going to go ahead and cut out this 36 inches. And then I'm going to be stitching this together. I'm going to top stitching on it just to stitch it together. Now I'm going to be joining the shoulder of the back to that of the front. So I'm going to bring the front here, and then I'm going to be pinning the shoulders together. After pinning the shoulders together, I'm going to be stitching it by 1/2 inch, and I'm also going to be doing the same thing to the second part. So I'm done stitching the shoulders together, and this is what it looks like. Now I'm going to fold it into two so that I can get the center part of the back part. So I'm going to be notching the back part. That is the center part of the back part. I'm going to be notching it. And my ashoke that I cut out for my collar also, I'm going to fold it into two and then notch the center part. Now I'm going to be matching the center, the notch part of my ashoke to the notch part of my kaftan or my Duchess material on the back part here. You can see what I'm doing. So now I'm going to be stitching it all the way here from the back to the front this way, and I'm going to make sure that it enters into that part that I notched. So this is it. I'm done stitching it. This is what it looks like, and you can see what I have left there. That is really not much, even after adding 3 inches extra. So that's why I said you can add 4 inches extra, so that when you have excess, you can just cut it off. So here I just have exactly what I needed. So I'm going to be pinning the shoulders together because this material is not stable, and so that I will not get confused. Or so you can see that it is that part that I notched that I used to stitch that collar there. So if I hadn't notched that part, it will not be easy for me to sew it to that at that angle. So now you are just going to arrange this your collar properly. You are going to make it overlap for sure. So you are going to, while arranging it to overlap, you are going to remember that you mark out 8 inches for your V shape, where is your for the opening part of the neck, which is the V form. So you are just going to mark out the 8 inches. So that is what I've marked out here. And then I'm going to be arranging the neckline properly like this. Just make sure to do the same. And then I'm going to be pinning it together because it has to overlap. Then you are going to be top stitching on it. So I'm going to pin it together, but while arranging it, make sure that when you overlap it, it's going to be enough to fit into that lower part. So now I'm going to top stitch from that 8 inches mark to the end of it here, and then I'm going to be stitching this part together. So let's top stitch on it first. So I'm done top stitching. So this is what it looks like. I top stitch very close to the end. So now we are going to be fixing this lower part. So I'm going to turn it to the wrong side like this. You can see what I've done here, or what I'm doing. And then I'm going to be stitching it by 1/2 inch. So you can see that notch part. Just pay attention to that angle that you notch. So that is what is going to guide you in stitching this together. So I'm going to pin it together now so that it will not shift, and then I'm going to be stitching it by 1/2 inch. So from that angle that you notch to the second angle that you notch, that is where you are going to stitch. It does not have to, you shouldn't let it pass it. So you can see this is the result, and it's already looking nice. So now I'm going to measure the sleeve length, and what I have there is 17 inches. So I'm going to, this is ashoke full one, and I cut it into two, and the length is 17 inches, but the wideness is 3 inches. So what I'm going to do now is to fold this ashoke by 1/2 inch. I'm going to iron 1/2 inch inward like this. You can see what I've done. So now I'm going to bring this my bubu. You can see that it's on the wrong side, so the sleeve part I'm going to put it on the wrong side, and the part of this ashoke that I did not fold in by half of an inch, I'm going to be fixing it here. I can see that I'm placing the right side of the ashoke on the wrong side of the sleeve of the bubu. I hope you get what I'm saying. So now I'm going to stitch it together by half of an inch. So I've done that. You can see now I'm turning from the wrong side to the right side. I'm flipping it from the wrong side to the right side. I hope you get what I'm saying. So just go ahead and do exactly the same. So I'm going to pin this all around just to stabilize it. Then I'm going to be top stitching on this. I'm going to be top stitching on the actual fit very close to the edge, and I'm going to do the same thing to the second side. So this is what it looks like, and now I'm going to be flipping it to the wrong side so as to stitch the side together and the lower part. So now I'm going to be pinning it. I'm going to make sure that the sleeve align, arrange the sleeve properly. I'm going to pin it, and then I'm going to stitch it by half of an inch on this side, and this side also I'm going to be stitching it by half of an inch all the way down to the hem part. And when I'm done, I'm going to be hemming the lower part by 1 inch. So this is our Bubu Kaftan. You can see what it looks like. It's already so nice, and you can see how the neck is sitting perfectly. So don't forget to like this video, subscribe to this channel, give your comment, and I'll see you in my next video.